Hello, guys. Hey, welcome to another episode of Insights with Dean Shams. So, the news is out today. Today, in Singapore newspapers, be it today, Straits Times, they're saying that layoffs, unemployment rate, uh, all these job losses, the rate's going to is expected to rise even further this year. So, we are not at the worst yet, and business of all sizes are affected. Okay, so retrenchment has become a reality, and if you are unfortunately one of them, there is no shame to it. Just be honest with yourself and be honest with people. But at the same time, I know that there are companies that are still hiring. That's for sure because I've heard people being hired or getting hired. So we all need to sell ourselves the best way possible. So today, I'm very glad to have an expert in this arena. He is Adrian Tan. Let me get him into the studio first. Hey, Adrian.
Hey, Dean. Thanks for having
Hey.
me.
No problem. Okay, so friends, let me share a little bit about Adrian. He's the man who's named as one of the top 60 global influencer in HR tech. He has 12 years of experience and is a strong advocate of a new code of work. And he, consistently contribute opinion articles on Channel News Asia's website. So once again, welcome, Adrian.
Thanks, Dean.
All right. So we are now going. You have been doing this for 12 years, and you've seen a lot of mid-career professionals doing all the wrong thing when they are moving on to the next job, right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So let's start the discussion going, right? Okay. So what does a mid-career PMET? PMET meaning professional managers, executive, and technicians. What do they need to know about how the job search arena has changed when they first came into the workforce? That could be 10 years, even 20 years ago. So what has changed?
I think you have managed to capture some of it when during your opener, where you
Mm,
said that there's really no shame in getting retrenched or being out of job. I
mm,
think for the longest time, people have been very cautious about that. They just have a very negative connotation. You know, it's very much like how the Japanese culture would take it. You probably have read
mm.
stories about people
Yeah, absolutely.
continuing going for pretending to go to work. And in fact, in Singapore, many years ago, I have actually seen cases of that. I actually have a colleague who was retrenched together with me when we were
Mm,
in a .com, and
mm.
he was just idling in Shenton Way every other day,
All dressed
without
up like an executive going to
all
work, right?
dressed up, all dressed up. Of course, he has a copy of classifieds. Classifieds back then were a lot more thicker, and he was
Mm,
just running through. But he's basically not doing it from home. He just
mm,
wanted to have an outlet, and I guess just out of the house. So I think from that context, it really doesn't help because you really want to leverage on the connections, your friends, the network that you
mm,
have to drive the message out. And if you just keep things to yourself, keep it close to your heart, no one will be able to know the situation or the
mm,
problem that you
mm,
have. And then your true friends will not be able to step up to help you with it. So I think the key thing
mm,
for mid career professionals who are probably in the 40s age group and
mm,
above
mm,
in the generation where we may find it to be a bit taboo to talk about all this stuff, they have to understand that the era has changed. In fact, if you
absolutely.
look at recent cases where people from different startup were laid off, the companies, in fact, some of the individuals actually took their own initiative to compile everyone's details into a Google Sheet, into an Airtable, and then just start sharing it on the internet. Because this
That's
is how
great,
you
right?
can
Yeah.
easily, yeah, you can easily provide access to all the HR professionals who may be hiring. So I think, but just imagine if you're one of those who is like, oh yeah, I'm so paise, I'm so
Yeah.
embarrassed, I do not want to be on the list. You're not going to be helped.
Mm, 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 mm. So, what you're saying is that there is, again, repeating, no shame in losing your job because it's probably 90% nothing to do with your quality as an executive. It's got to do with the environment today. Uh, but what is important is also to not be afraid to ask for help, right? Is that what you're saying?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah, not
Mm,
be afraid to ask for help because there's just a lot of people out there who probably know other people that you do not know. And in trying
mm,
to reach out, reach to the bigger market, you may even potentially hit someone that you can pull a psychological trick with. And I'll share with you what I mean. So
Okay.
I was doing career coaching many years back, and I always
Mhm.
tell people to try to spot others that you have some commonalities with in the specific company or sectors that you have interest in. So let's say you want to join Facebook,
Mm.
and let's say you graduated from NTU in a specific faculty. You want to find out if there's anyone who's was with NTU as well, and have joined Facebook, and try to reach out to them and ask them, oh, I really admire what you're doing right now. I'd like to get some career advice, because when the person look at you, they're actually looking at the younger version of themselves.
That's so true. Yes, yes. I really get what you're trying to say. So, but I think what is important also is the tone of how they reach out, right? So they shouldn't be reaching out in a, like a begging tone, but more like a, you know what, I want to learn from you, kind of a feel to it, right?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
Okay, I'm a very firm believer of mindset always comes first, and mindsets affects everything that you do in a new project. So looking for a job is a new project, right? So what should the right mindset be when let's say I lose a job? So how can I adjust my mindset around this new situation in my life now?
I think it's just like going through any bad news that you have in your life. There will always be this few stages of grief that you have to run through. The most important thing is you have to go through all of them. Just
Mm,
like a couple months back, my dog of 13 years passed away. I
okay.
was extremely sad. I
All
cried so myself, my eyes out, but slowly but surely, I have to rebuild up, because you do not want to be in that state for so long, for too long. And I've seen
right.
people who have remained in that state for way too many days. In fact, years. I know this guy who has been in this state for 6 years. He's so
Wow,
disgruntled by
6 years.
yeah, by all the whatever he perceived as the unfair things that happened to him, that he was no longer with the company, and because of the angst and the grief that he hold within him, he has never been able to step up and find something else. So trying to get through that is
Mm,
very important. And yes, we may want to reminiscence about the past, the good old days, flying in business class here and
mm,
there. But the thing is, those things are gone, and we really have to look forward, because just like driving a car, you don't drive a car and keep looking at the rear view mirror. You will crash into a lamppost sooner or later. So I
that's
think
right.
getting past that stage is very important. And how do you get past the stage? Talk it out. Even for introvert, talk it out. Myself, I'm an introvert as well.
Mm,
I will try to talk it out. I'll try to write it out. I'll try to cry it out if it's necessary. I think trying to get people to be your listening ear, be your sounding board, that is very important. So speak with your friends, your family. Try to find someone who is non-judgmental. Of course, that's very important,
yeah.
to really let you get all this negativity or all this burden, all this weight out of your body, so that you can relax and really bring in new ideas and new directions.
I think it's also when you said talk it out. I just want to add, it's so important when you talk it out to someone. You need to tell that person, hey, I just want you to listen. I don't need the advice, because a lot of people tend to go into the advice mode, and then they become the expert in job search, and then they will give you so many advice, and the person who's talking it out gets so confused, and even worse, right? They feel worse. So that's just one thing that I want to add to this conversation. Okay, so like what you're saying, the past is the past. There was a way that we do things in the past, and now it's completely different. We are communicating differently. Yet when we lose job and we're looking for the next job, we are doing things the way we remembered it 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And what I'm referring to really is a resume. So I have done a lot of employability skills training, and I look at the participant's resume, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like 15 years ago, before even email was there, right? Because they have all the information like address, which is completely not necessary today. All we need is an email address and your handphone number, right? So I just want to talk about resume first. So based on your expert knowledge, what are some of the things that they need to do in the resume currently? How is it different? What are the current expectations?
Well, again, different folks, different strokes. So I think it depends on who you're speaking with. But personally, I feel that differentiation is the key. But having said that, it doesn't mean that you have to go all designer and creative with stuff. I've seen that before,
Yeah.
usually for people who is in the creativity field. But having said that, you have to bear in mind a lot of all this resume actually goes into a recruitment software.
Mm,
And if it's too image heavy, PDF heavy, it may not be able to capture the information. But of course, if you're in the creative field, it's a different thing altogether.
mm,
But if you're not, trying to get that message across is very important. But I think the key thing is the unique message that you want to bring across. Because bearing in mind, I mean, just look at any undergrads.
mm.
If the whole class of accountancy graduate, what actually differentiate every single one of them?
They're all the
Not
same.
re- Yeah, they are all the same. They are all
Mm,
graduate. They all have the same certificate. Maybe some better grades, some lesser grades. So the other thing you have to bear in mind is how do you differentiate? And the differentiation comes in other aspects that you already have. So again, using a same example. So if you have to hire one accounting grad,
mm,
so assuming all things being equal, the two of them are identical twin, but one of them happens to be the captain of the basketball team.
mm.
So which one would you prefer? I personally would prefer the captain of basketball team because
Absolutely.
in his sporting arena, he has probably gained a lot of leadership experience, a lot of perseverance experience. So all this stuff add up. So you
Mm,
want to drive across what actually makes you unique. And that is based on what you can combine with other stuff. So you may be an accounting person, but you also have some flair in, let's say, videography,
mm,
marketing, or maybe speech writing, storytelling. All this would be very useful. I mean, just look at how a typical CFO is like. Many years back, you can do bookkeeping, that's enough. But
mm.
nowadays, CFO has to go to the boardroom, have to make presentation, have to go SGX for listed company. So the skill set has evolved, and you also have to evolve as an individual. And even before the evolution come, you may want to experiment with what may work for you.
So it seems like what you're saying is, if friends, if you're still in a job and you're kind of worried, you need to think about what else outside job can you do, outside your job. What else can you do to show your future employers that you know what you are different from the rest of the pack, right? Now, Adrian.
That's correct. And I can share with you my personal experience. So after
Mm,
I exited from my recruitment business, I was very interested to enter LinkedIn, to join LinkedIn.
okay.
Interviewed, didn't get a job. I then interviewed at hire.com. I also didn't get a job. I was very frustrated, especially for the second one, because they hired someone whom I feel is totally not qualified. So I
We
turned
always
my,
feel that way, right? I mean,
yeah,
like
of
when we don't
course.
get a job, the person who got a job is not qualified, not as good
For
as you.
sure, for sure. So I'm sure he said the same thing for someone else though. So so I actually turned my frustration into my writing. So
Mm,
I basically turned my writing into an outlet to vent out my frustration, and I start writing about things related to HR tech and all that. And that started 4 years ago. Then I evolved to create a HR tech market map, and again things just keep snowballing. People start approaching me. I got
mm,
to write for Channel News Asia, this and that, and it became a situation where I actually became one of the global HR tech influencer.
nice.
So that really came about because I started to produce content. I start to create. For many different functions out there, actually writing is the easiest for you to do something. Because writing doesn't require you to, you know, it's unlike putting together a YouTube video, a podcast, go onto a stage to speak, or even, imagine if you're in the engineering field. You can't possibly create something. It's too much work, too much friction,
Yeah,
but you can write about it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so you can write about your opinion piece, you can write about something else, and that's really how you get the word out there to really put yourself out there and be positioned as a thought leader, because that would be the key differentiation.
I think you made such a amazing point is that you just need to write. But what's important, because I'm in public relations and I also help executives build their profile, right? What is important, I want to add, is that you need to have an opinion about issues. Correct, no, Adrian? Because I've gone on to Channel News Asia and I saw like, wow, you got tons of article there. It's amazing. And all of them are not just talking about, you're not reporting, you are giving your opinion, your take on issues, right?
That's correct. And I remember participating in an event, and this lady was sharing about all this, and she mentioned one point which I took away, which is there are too much content right now, but too little opinion. And I completely resonate with that, because opinion can be tricky. I think we for us in Singapore, it's just past the general election period, but during the GE, everyone became a political analyst. Everyone
Yeah,
became a politic expert.
political analyst, yes.
Yeah, and everyone would be having an opinion, but many also realize the opinion could also backfire in the
Mm,
right way or in the wrong way,
mm,
because people may have very different views from you. And I personally have been on the receiving end of that, not on political views, but on something else. And this happened many years ago. And in fact, I was so disturbed and affected by it. I spent one whole day, one whole unproductive day, trying to pen down the perfect retort to burn whoever wrote that
wow.
comment. And but at the end of the day, I didn't publish. I didn't even write. I realized I just wasted one whole day.
Yeah. Did you
And
even comment? Did you reply to the
I did not reply at all. Yeah, because things just and things just move on. And can you imagine for people who are actively on YouTube, on TikTok,
oh,
Instagram, the
they get a
amount
lot.
of hate that they could get. But I also realized something. If people don't hate what you're doing, you're not doing it right. There
That's
would
right.
definitely be someone that will dislike what you're doing because of whatever reason. You just have to accept it. And the key thing is to ensure you continue to do what you're doing, because you have to remember you have a larger bunch of supporters out there. People
Mm,
who are silent, the silent majority, as they like to be called,
absolutely.
who are supporting you. They may like your what you're doing, but they wouldn't go into the extent of commenting or write too much about it. So I think you just have to keep at it, and basically, if you cannot deal with it, just don't read the comments.
Okay, so one viewer, Kim Weng Leong, saying, I need training. Okay, so I just want to share my point of view also, as because I teach and I even write opinion articles for my PR clients. What is important about opinion is this: if a good opinion must have both people who agree and people who disagree. Because if everyone agrees with your opinion, then it is not a very powerful opinion. If everyone disagrees with your opinion, it just means that maybe your opinion are not relayed in the right way, or it is a bit too ahead of your time. So when you have a blend of people who agree and disagree, that's the perfect opinion. That's all I have to say about this. Okay, so that's a good job. So people, friends, please go and start writing your opinions. Don't tell me that your English is not good enough, because there are a lot of editing apps out there that can help you polish up your final writing. But the opinion itself has to come from you. And please do not parrot somebody else's opinion, because people who know that it's not your original opinion will see, your reputation will go down. That's it. Right, Adrian? Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about technology. So we have this thing called the application tracking system, or usually it's called ATS. Can you, being an expert in this field, can you share with us what are some of the things that we need to know when we're applying for a job about ATS?
Sure. So for the audience that may not be aware, ATS essentially will be the recruitment software that
Mm,
company use to help manage the influx of applicants coming into the system. And ATS basically has one key function, which is to help narrow down the number of applicants in the shortest amount of time. And they typically use keywords. For
mm,
some sophisticated system, they will do skills matching, they will apply semantics. But at the lowest denominator, it is usually just keywords. So
mm,
so if you are applying for a marketing manager role and you do not have the word marketing manager in your CV, chances are you will not rank high. And if you do
mm.
not rank high, the recruiter who is manning the system most likely will not want to read your CV, because the reason for ATS is not to read 100 CV. I just want to read the top 5%.
That's right. Okay.
So a lot of people would want to apply some keywords matching to ensure that they get it right. So there's a lot of websites out there that are doing it right now. So you just have to put in the job posting, put in your CV, and then they'll start to tell you what is the probable score. So if the score is low, these are the missing keywords. Please put them in and then try again. So that's one thing. But I think over and above a typical job application, the key thing is really to look at other means to get
Mm,
your profile through the door. You can
mm,
imagine if you're just going to apply it through JobStreet, LinkedIn, everyone else in the job market is doing the same thing.
mm.
So if everyone is going on the highway, you should take the side road. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it might be a bit longer, but at least you don't have to deal with that much traffic. And that means going out to LinkedIn to connect with people you do not know, but happens to be working in the target company and taking the same pitch that I shared with you. I
Mm.
like what you're doing, really admire what you have done before. I'd like to get some career advice from you. Can I buy you coffee? So things like that, because studies have shown the number one source of good hires for any companies would actually be referrals.
Yeah, the collective wisdom is that the best jobs are never advertised, right? They're always either referred or invited, right? Because people know people, right?
Yeah, that's right. And if you're able to sustain such a good relationship, when the opportunity opens, you can be assured that this individual would definitely want to push you in or at least make the recommendation. And also bearing in mind, in many companies, they actually provide referral fees.
Ah, that's right. That's true. That's true. Okay, I just want to come back to the resume just a little bit. Uh, Based on my experience with my participants who I teach employability skills, a lot of them write the resume as if like it's a legal document. So they write the truth and nothing but the truth, every single thing. And then it goes on to 5 pages. But you're saying that, hey, you know what? A resume needs to promote yourself. So it echoes what I teach in the course. So I always say a resume is a promotional material that promotes you as a potential employee. So Adrian, can you say something more about how we should approach the content of the resume now?
So to me, a resume is just like a flyer. So imagine that you are the product and you have a flyer to put out. And I think if you need to have any good case study comparison reference point, look at how Apple market iPod versus how Creative market the Zen something
That was when they first released the MP3
when it
player.
was first released, yes. So for creative, they basically put in all the specs. They will tell you, oh, this has what's the processor, what's the amount of RAM, this and that. So very technical, which I guess is something along the line of what you said. But for Apple iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket, full stop.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And that really triggers your imagination. That really gives you the wow factor. They are literally saying the same thing if you discount away the fluff. But the thing is, the fluff captures you in, which is why people always say Steve Jobs has this reality distortion feel, which is
Yes.
essentially fluff. And you just have to fluff it up. And I do understand it is very hard to talk up about yourself because,
Mm, mm.
especially in the Asian culture, we are always taught to be humble.
Yeah.
Uh, if you cannot do it, find someone else. Talk to a good friend, ask your good friend, hey, what do you think is good about me at work, in this, in that?
Mm.
If you don't have friends, unfortunately, try to take some assessment tests out there so that you can have a deeper insight into your characteristic. You can do things like DISC, MBTI, Strength Finder. Strength Finder is very good because it allows you to list down your strength. Because and that is something that I always tell people. Hey, when you need to go to interview, go and do a Strength Finder test first. Because if
Absolutely.
people
Yeah.
to ask you what are your strengths, you don't have to answer them. Show them Strength Finder.
Yeah. Or you can talk with a lot of confidence because it's qualified, right? It's qualified. You already tested it. It's there.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Now let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is one of the main ways, right? So you mentioned a little bit about LinkedIn. So how can I now use it to find the next job?
Besides having the profile, you will need to do a few things. One, of course, is to increase the number of connections that you have. That's very important because LinkedIn, you have to remember, it is not a job board. It is a social network,
Yeah.
and the amount of reach that you can hit out, it depends on the number of connections that you have at that point in time.
Mm,
So LinkedIn right now has at least on the front end, if you have anything above 500, even if you have 10,000, they will still show 500 plus.
mm.
But importantly is to really scale it. But if you were to, and something that people may not know, there are actually tools out there that could help you to accelerate that growth. So there's actually automation tool that could easily help you to reach out to people, send the invite automatically. I personally
Okay.
have a tool. I can send out 100 invites per day and up to 300 messages per day automatically while I'm talking to you. So there
Wow.
are tools out there that people should be familiar with, but of course, doesn't mean you neglect the content. You don't spam that 100 people and tell them, "I want a job, I want a job, I want a job." That is not going to work. So you need to have a good pitch. So what could be your pitch? Again, going back to the advice thing, because something in the startup arena, people always say, if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. So I like to translate that into job search. If you ask for job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get job. So try to slant your angle a little different so that people will not be switched off. And also bearing in mind, most people will just go straight in for the, go straight for the lowest hanging fruit and ask if you can get a job. So,
Mm,
so once you have established that, of course, you need to ensure that you connect with the right people. You don't connect with everyone from A to Z. It doesn't make sense. You want to connect one with the peers of the target function or target company that you have in mind, the hiring manager, and three, the specialist recruiters that is working on your function. So let's say you are in the pharmaceutical industry. You don't have to connect with that HR specialist recruiter. Doesn't make sense. You want to connect with the agency or the recruiter that specializes in pharmaceutical search.
that makes sense.
And of course, using LinkedIn to continue building up your content, share your opinion out there, liking people posts. All these will be things that you have to put into your daily tasks in order to ensure that people are reminded of your existence.
And I think what is important also is to not be afraid of putting yourself out there, right? Because after all, you're looking for a job, right? So you have to put yourself out there. Despite whatever things that is going through your mind, friends, you just need to tell yourself, stop. My life phase has changed. It's gone on to the next phase. I need to put myself out there and just put yourself out there without thinking too much. Okay. I have a question from Ramesh Tarani. How do you help a PMET who is suddenly retrenched to overcome the victim mindset as compared to someone who decides on a deliberate job switch? Do you have any advice, Adrian?
Victim mindset. Well, personally, I've experienced it a few times. I have personally been retrenched twice. I've been fired twice as well, so four times in total. And even for the situation where I already have the intention to resign, but I didn't pull the trigger fast enough.
Mm,
Immediately, my perception changed. I became a victim,
mm,
and that was how I think that's how I guess people typically deal with it.
mm,
But for those of you who may unfortunately be experiencing this as well, I think the key thing is you have to remember for every bad thing, there's also a million good things that has happened. Don't forget the things, the effort, the results, the deliverables that you have brought for the company over the past few years. Because firstly, if you truly are someone that you feel that, oh, I just don't deserve the job, which is why they fire me, they would have
mm,
done it on day one. Why do they have to do it 5 years later, 10 years later? So it's
mm,
not you, it's the economy, it's something else.
mm, mm,
Yeah, if it's you, why did they give you an increment over the past few years? Why did they even promote you for the past few years? But the thing is, we tend to forget all this lah, and then take things for granted.
mm.
And then as we try to pursue other things, we forget that, oh, we actually have fresh air, we have food on the table. So you really have to go back to basics to see that what you have or what you had. And I think importantly is you also have to be reminded that if you have been working for the longest time, you have gained experience. You would have gained experience. Now think of yourself as a racehorse. If you have been practicing horse racing for the longest time, would you
Mm,
not put money on yourself? Would you bet on other horses? You wouldn't. You would bet on yourself, especially because you have gained so much more experience. So experience counts. Of course, the right experience. Because for some people, 10 years of experience is actually just 1 year of experience repeated 10 times.
yes.
So you have to see where you are. But no matter what, you still have at least have 1 year. You are still better than a fresh grad. So what can you bring to the table? And what kind of approach are you taking? Because you can have 20 years, but you can be a very arrogant prick. No one will want to entertain that. So
Mm,
you have to amalgamate all this to see how you want to better position yourself to show people that your experience, your attitude, and whatever you have right now far outweigh everyone else in the market and quickly move into something else. So I think knowing all this may help you to get through this despair that you're facing right now. But I will
mm,
also rank it under, of course, the step two of the grief process. You really want to get out of it as soon as possible. Again,
mm.
going back to my previous example, I know this guy victimized for 6 years. How many more years do you want to be victimized? 10 years, 20 years until on your deathbed? Doesn't make sense to me. You have to move on.
Sounds like when we have lost our job, that interim period before we find the next job, it is a really good time for us to take stock of ourselves, not only in terms of competency, but also in terms of, let's say, our qualities as a person, right? Because we need to start to think about all the good and the bad, and then how to package ourselves for the next leap, for the next phase of our career. That's what you're
That's
saying.
absolutely. And we see company do it so many times. Every organization will have their yearly corporate retreat. They'll map out what has been done over the past year, what we're going to do over the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. When have you done it for yourself?
Mm,
Probably never. So it is time to really do that stock take, to do a review of what you've done over the past year. I personally write about this every close to December.
mm,
It is very grounding for me because it helps me to think about what I've actually achieved in January, February, early part of the year, instead of just focusing on recency effect. Recency effect would be like, oh, if I have a very bad period in November, I'm just going to focus on November.
mm.
January until October never exists. So it's not that way. If you force yourself to really run through, so I run through my Google Photos to remind myself what happened in January, February, and all that. And I could easily pinpoint certain positive and of course some negatives. So all this you want to put together to give yourself a better understanding of the milestone that you have just crossed. And again, giving you better insights into yourself and how you want to move forward.
That's an excellent advice. I mean, we all really need to take stock every now and then. Does this mean then that when we go on to the next job, we should intentionally plan to move on in 5 years or whatever period that we think is comfortable, and actively, proactively move to the next job, be it in the next organization or within the same organization, but maybe different function. Does that sound fair, or is it practical?
I think it would be very practical in today's time because in today's context, there's no longer iron rice bowl.
Absolutely.
And if you have seen the book by Reid Hoffman, the one of the co-founder of LinkedIn, I think it's in his second book called The Alliance. He mentioned a term called tour of duty, and that is how you should really approach your work. So just like army veteran or army personnel who go on different tours, Afghanistan for 2 years, Iraq for 2 years, and somewhere else, that is how you should approach your job because there is no more job security right now in the market.
Mm,
Now, assuming you really like what you want, of course, by all means, continue doing that over and over and over again. But for those people, I will also highly suggest take some time to do something else, to try some other outlet, be it writing, maybe a side project, something else for you to gain experience that you couldn't gain in your primary function. Because
mm.
unless you can guarantee that your primary function and your primary employer will be there forever, you want to make sure that you don't want to be left with your pants not
Quite
on you,
intense
not on
stuff.
you. Yeah, let go of your pants down when things happen. So it's very important for you to start building all these peripheral skill sets as much
Mm,
as you can. So that is what I would share with individuals.
great. Now, we have talked enough about ourselves as a job seeker, but let's talk about employers, because when we keep getting rejected, sometimes, or a lot of times, we think that something is wrong with us, but sometimes, some employers don't play fair. And I know you have come across employers like that in your line of work as consulting, or even personally when you were looking for a job. So, can you, based on your experience, share with us what are some of the unfair expectations or unfair practices that employers have when it comes to recruitment?
Let me share with you a couple of extreme examples first. So I met up with MD of a accounting company, a huge one, and he was telling me that I will not hire people from ACS. I was like, why? Oh, then I realized he came from Hua Chong. So the schoolboy rivalry thing is still in him, even though he is close to 60s. Met up with another PRC company, and the
Okay, just,
director was
just a
telling me,
moment there. Just a moment there. So people who are not in Singapore, you would need to know what is ACS and Hua Chong, right? So these are really one of the top schools in Singapore. So somehow they seem to have some kind of rivalry. Okay, carry on, Adrian.
yes. Thanks for clarification. So the other one that I met up with was telling me, for people that we're trying to hire, they cannot belong to this three horoscope. So in Chinese, they have this 12 horoscope thing. And I was like, why is that the case? Oh, because the GM, the director is of this horoscope, and all these other three horoscope would clash. So these are the extreme cases that I've seen. But these are fortunately still in the minority. The
Yeah.
typical one would be, of course, things like I've spoken with headhunter, I've spoken with company. If they know that you have been unemployed for a period of time,
Mm,
they would see it as a discount to your reputation for whatever reason. They just feel that, oh, for anyone that really have true value, they should constantly be employed.
mm,
That's their rationale. So they won't give anyone who have been unemployed for even 3 months or even 2 months a chance. Then, of course, you have all this other stuff which people would keep off their job description for whatever reason. Because hiring manager, the thing about this is hiring manager are the ones that make the decision.
mm,
Recruiters are the ones that actually execute whatever hiring managers say. And
mm,
many companies do not train their hiring managers to be professional enough to do recruitment. You
mm,
will probably have some of you may have gone into some interview setting where it become a casual chat, just banter about this and that. I've been into one interview when I was in my youth, and that was round two, and the director was just asking me about my opinion on this Chinese painting behind me. In my head, I'm like, why? Why does it even matter? But the thing is, it is how it is. Many people are just not professionally trained. The one that are trained, they will ask the same. They will ask different candidates the same set of questions. These are called structured interview questions. So and the good thing about in today's context is you can easily find that out. Just go to Glassdoor. Go to Glassdoor and go and find out people who have given reviews on the interview process. You'll be able to see something.
So Glassdoor is an online app or online portal where employees are given the chance to review their employers, right? So I think it's in all major cities. Like for Singapore, it will be Glassdoor Singapore. I'm sure you'll get there on Google, right? Okay, amazing advice, Adrian. Is there any last words you want to share with people who are maybe struggling with their current in between jobs phase?
I know it's very, very dejecting to go through this period of time. I personally have been through it, and it's very demoralizing. You feel that there's no self worth. What did my family do to deserve this? I'm not good enough for them. But when I look back to those period right now, I could see not just the down period, but also the happy period. The things that actually evolved me. Like when I exited from my recruitment business, I was lost for a few years because I have tied my
Few years.
identity so close with the company. Then I started to do a lot of things that I otherwise would not have done. I started to read. Can you imagine when I was running a business for, I don't know, 12, 10 years plus, I've never read a single business book. But after that, I started to read. And right now, every year I clock about 20-ish, 30 books per year. And it really helped to change my perspective. So there would always be the some merit, no matter what kind of situation that you're in. It is for you to make the best out of it. So it's just like, oh, I left on I go to the MRT, then I realized I did not bring my phone. Yeah, it's the worst thing that can be happening to me. But what can you do? Maybe you could just sit there and reflect, do a bit of meditation, do a breathing exercise, do some self self help, self improvement. So
Mm.
all these opportunities are there. It's just whether you want to keep reminding yourself, I forgot to bring my phone, I forgot to bring my phone until you reach your destination, or do you want to do something about it? So likewise, when it comes to our job, there's many things that you could do. You can reach out to people, connect with people, you can learn something, you can pick up new skill, you can start writing, you can record your own podcast, be a YouTube star, go on TikTok. There's so many things that you can do. But
So,
of course, not just for fun, it's really for you to put out your subject matter expertise. So
mm,
I think there's really a lot of things out there you want to do. And the first version will be ugly. The first version will be embarrassing. I'm very certain if you ask Dean about his first copywriting project, he will probably would faint. The first speaking engagement that I did, I started with maybe about 20 audience. I was left with two.
oh,
So yeah, so you have to go through that phase because these are learning phase. Just like in school, we fail a few subjects, so we learn from it and we do better. So you just have to take the first step, and after you have taken the first step, the subsequent steps will be very very liberating and very very rewarding.
absolutely. So what you're saying also is that do not wait for you to become perfect before you put yourself out there. Just put yourself out there and grow and evolve as you become better at it, right?
Absolutely.
So, friends, these are the words of wisdom from Adrian Tan, who has 12 years of experience in this. So we cannot say we cannot deny whatever they're saying because it is ground experience. He has helped so many people get jobs. He has helped companies get the best people. So he absolutely knows what's going on right now and is completely current, contemporary, and useful. So if you want to connect with Adrian, this is the website, right? adriantan.com.sg. So it's there. And before we say goodbye, incidentally, I'm going to be conducting or organizing a workshop on how you can best use LinkedIn to get your next best job. So if you want to check it out, please go to this website here. I will also put it in the Facebook comments below. So for now, have fun. If you are in between jobs, please make the best use of this time, like Adrian said. So goodbye, Adrian.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye.